It is still driver release season. We are still pumping out the review videos, and in today's video, we are going to be going over the PING G440 series, the brand new driver lineup for the year 2025. As a club fitter, I have the privilege of working with these clubs for the next year, so I'm gonna be going over my full comprehensive review of each one of these heads and letting you know which one I would consider putting in my bag. So PING drivers in the last few years have really climbed the ranks of the best drivers on the market. You know, 5-ish years ago, when every golf company in the world seemed to be on the quest to have the longest driver, PING was really the only company that was really focused on forgiveness more than distance. And they've carved themselves out a little lane in the driver industry, being known as the most forgiving drivers on the planet. So while other companies are kind of just getting their footing in the forgiving driver market, PING's been in there for years. There have been some negatives in the past few years, though, that PING has claimed to kind of work on this year. So as of now, we have the three heads. We have the Max, the SFT, and the LST. Let's go over to the testing and let's talk about the technology now. So we're gonna start out with the looks here, and it's nothing crazy from PING that we haven't seen before. All three head models look the same from the top other than their size. They still have those really iconic, now iconic, PING turbulators on the top of the head, which I think look really good. I know when they first came out and when they first got introduced, they were kind of polarizing, but I think they look pretty good, especially with that matte head. There is one thing that I'm kind of nitpicking on that I think looks worse in the G440 than it did in the G430. About halfway down the crown on all three of the driver heads, it switches from this straight matte black to this lighter gray carbon looking design, which, you know, I think both of them look really good on their own, but the switch is just kind of very abrupt and at a weird angle kind of on the head. Last year's model, the G430, had this too, but after taking a look at both of them side by side, the G440 is a lot more pronounced and kind of in your face. Now, that's not me saying that it's super offensive and that I hate the look of it. It still looks fine, but in the looks department, it did slightly decrease from last year. That's also my opinion. Looks are subjective, so maybe you'll love it. I personally didn't. Now let's talk about the technology. We're gonna start out with the Max head here, which for now is the most forgiving model of the three heads. Now, in an effort to pair that maximum forgiveness with more distance, PING has created a lighter weighting system, a thinner and a hotter face, PING claims, and they've increased the standard shaft length from 45.5 to 46 inches to really increase any club head speed that they can. Also, the new free hosel and carbon fly wrap crown have created the lightest weight driver that they've ever made, and they've claimed that it has also created the lowest center of gravity that they've ever had in a PING driver. One major issue that people have had with PING drivers in the past has been the sound. They've been kind of loud and tingy, which doesn't appeal to most people, myself included, but PING has claimed that they've absolutely gotten rid of that problem this year, and it's going to sound a lot more solid and thuddy at impact. So let's hit some now and let's test that out. Alrighty, so we're going to start off with the Max head here, kind of put it through its paces. Then we'll take a look at the data afterwards, and I'll give you my overall thoughts on it. Here we go. Alrighty, that was the best strike so far, and obviously I'm not going to be upset with those numbers ever. 308 carry, 328 total. It spun low enough, which I was excited about. It got high enough, which I would expect out of a Max head. It's going to launch a little bit higher. But the one thing that I am really impressed with so far, which I had my doubts about, I will admit, was the sound. It does sound a lot better. Now, we are inside, so that might change things a little bit. I am excited to test it outside, so stay tuned for that. So we'll hit a few more with the Max head here, and then we'll show you the final numbers after these last few swings. So let me preface what I'm about to say with this. My miss with driver is left. So I'm expecting any misses that I have to go left. I don't really miss right with driver, but sometimes it is a big snap hook left like you see here. However, after some testing and some getting to know this driver a little bit, it does seem like it's going more left than I'm used to with other, you know, Max drivers, so the most forgiving models. This one seems to be a little bit more draw bias than some of the others. So overall, I thought it was a solid offering. There were a couple issues that I had. Like I said, it seemed a little bit more draw bias. Like I also said, that's my miss. So I'm not, you know, it could be a combination of those things. But the other thing I did notice with it is, compared to some other drivers that I've tested, when I really went after one and, you know, kind of tried to to get the club head speed up and get that ball speed up as high as I could, it did tend to spin up a little bit more. For a max head, that's not super uncommon, but in the TaylorMade QI35 Max and the GT2, which is basically the max version from Titleist, I didn't find that it spun up quite as much as the Ping did. We got well over 3,000 RPMs on a couple swings, and I did check my club data too, and it was pretty normal. I had a neutral club path too, hitting a little bit up on the ball, so it definitely spins a little bit more than I would like to see. That is part of the forgiveness factor that you get from Ping though, so expect a little bit more spin than maybe some other companies that have been chasing distance for all these years rather than forgiveness. So that's the max testing. Now we're gonna go into the SFT testing, which is a little bit worrisome for me because my misses left, and this driver head, the SFT, was really designed for those looking to combat a slice. So I am probably the last person in the world that should be playing an SFT. I'm gonna hit it, and I'm gonna try and keep it from going left as best I can, but no guarantees there. After I hit a couple shots normally with it, I am going to really basically just set up and try and slice the golf ball and see if this club allows me to even slice the golf ball. Also, with the Max and the LST heads, you have weight ports back here. You have one that's here, here, and here. One for fade bias, one for neutral, and one for draw bias. And then in the SFT, you only have draw and draw plus. So like I said, this is really made for people who are looking to kind of fix that slice or correct that slice a little bit. The gear is definitely gonna help you there, but I am probably not the ideal person to be testing this specific head. Alrighty, SFT testing. If you see any balls go left, don't say I didn't warn you. I definitely am starting to auto-correct. My body's realizing that this club wants to go left, so I think subconsciously I'm starting to aim it right, which isn't the worst thing. It got me a straight shot. So let's take a few more here. Alrighty, last couple swings with the SFT here, and what we're gonna try and do now is we're literally gonna set up super open, and we're just gonna try and slice this golf ball and see if we can't get it to go right a little bit. That is the biggest slice swing that I can possibly muster. And it's a little baby cut out there. So I felt like that swing was, for my miss being left, I can slice the golf ball if I really, really need to. And that's about the sliciest swing that I can possibly muster right there. So we're gonna try and do that one more time and see if we can actually get a slice. Kinda. I think that's about as far right as you can hit this golf club. Alrighty, so if we take a look at the dispersion here, we can see that, the two that I tried to slice, one was a little baby cut out there and one was kind of a slice. I'm kind of proud of myself for being able to do that. But then the other ones, we had two really, really good ones that were probably 300, 310 yards out there, but then we had those four. So those two, obviously, snap hooks. Those two, also not great, definitely in the rough at least. But like I told you before, I'm probably not the ideal target audience for the SFT. If you do struggle with that slice right, this definitely could be a good option for you. I wish more companies honestly made a driver like this. I think it's just Ping and Callaway that does it right now. But I think every driver company should make a driver that's specifically made anti-slice. So last head here, we're gonna be moving on to the LST, which is gonna be a great option for higher swing speeds. The LST is gonna offer less spin and more control. It has the same movable weights as the Max, meaning you can put it in fade, neutral, or draw bias. So if it can have less spin with that, added forgiveness of the Max head, I'm really excited. I've also heard really, really good things from people that I know that have tested it, so I'm really excited to give it a couple whacks. Definitely an adjustment going from the SFT to the LST. Everything's a little block right now, but the numbers are looking good. Let's hit a few more here. All right, that was about the best representation of a driver that I can have, so we're only gonna hit one more, really try and let one loose, and then we'll go over the numbers. Alrighty, so these are the numbers with the LST, and overall I'm really impressed. Definitely spun less than the max, which I did expect, but as you can see, the highest spin rate we got to was 2,900, so we didn't even get over 3,000. Average swing speed was 118, which was a little bit higher than the max, which you would also expect from a little bit smaller squashed head shape. Average carry 300, average total 325, all numbers that I'm pretty used to seeing and that I like to see. So as I kind of expected coming into this testing, the LST was definitely the one that performed the best for me. Now let's go to my overall and just final thoughts on each driver. So I do want to start my overall final thoughts by saying the PING G440 family probably isn't complete yet. I would heavily assume there's going to be a new rendition of the 10K driver that came out from last year, the G430 10K. I would almost guarantee they're going to bring out a G440 10K at some point throughout this year. I've said before how important and how good I think 10K drivers are, so make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below to stay up to date, and make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that 10K driver review when it comes out. For now though, the family consists of these three heads, the Max, the SFT, and the LST, and while I did say, and I do think that the looks have slightly decreased from last year, I do think the performance is a little bit better than last year. One of the main improvements that I saw was that sound. They talked about it, and Ping addressed the elephant in the room when it came to their drivers, and they really did deliver on it this year. So overall, for myself personally, in my bag, I would definitely consider putting the LST in the bag. I just had a stock Ping extra stiff shaft there, so I would go through a full fitting really to dial in my specs, but if I did that, I would definitely consider putting the LST in my bag for the year. If you're looking for a little bit more spin and just kind of maximum overall forgiveness, the Max head is definitely not a bad option for you. For me, it spun up a little bit too much when I went after it, but that might not be the case for you, so make sure you guys are getting fit for your clubs, especially driver. And then for all my ex-baseball players and hockey players out there that struggle with that big slice that you just can't seem to get rid of, the SFT might be the best option for you. Like I said, I wish every company made an SFT, anti-slice head, because I think there's a huge population of golfers out there that really need something like that and, would really benefit from a club like that. And then, personally, just as a club fitter, I can't wait to fit for these clubs. A lot of people, couldn't get over the sound of the Ping drivers last year and in years past. So I'm excited to fit with three heads that sound kind of on par with the rest of the drivers on the market. So with the improvements made to this G440 lineup and with the new 10K coming out, I think Ping is poised to be one of the top dogs for drivers this year, which is not something that any of us should be shocked by. That's it for the Ping G440 review. Like I said, make sure you're staying tuned for the 10K driver review when it comes out. Also, make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button down below, because I will have the Callaway Elite review coming out soon, probably next weekend, so you're not going to want to miss that. That's it from me. Thanks for sticking around, and until next time, peace out.